And we know that education is the way. We know that if our children are better educated and our families are better educated, then we're going to see better results and outcomes for them.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Graswich and welcome to Schools on Point. Today we'll be talking about some of the major issues impacting schools and public education here in Southern California and across the state. With me is Dr. Deborah Duardo, the Los Angeles County Superintendent of Schools. Welcome, Dr. Duardo.
Thank you. Good morning.
The Los Angeles County Office of Education serves 80 public school districts and 13 community colleges that educate 2.5 million students. Today, joining us is Assemblymember Mike Gipson. Assemblymember Mike Gipson is a Democrat representing the 65th Assembly District, which is comprised of portions of Los Angeles County. Assemblymember Gipson chairs the Arts, Entertainment, Sports, and Tourism Committee. He serves on additional committees and is a member of several select committees. Prior to being elected to the State Assembly in 2014, Mr. Gipson was elected to the Carson City Council in 2005 and served as mayor pro tempore for nearly a decade. Welcome. And with that, let's begin.
Thank you.
Assemblymember Gipson, you have had a long history of involvement in public service and government. How did some of your early experiences in public service impact your decisions to work in state government?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me on the show. I think everything that I've done prior to entering into elective office have prepared me for elective office in terms of being more sensitive, being more poignant, being open-minded on various issues that the legislature and city council had to offer when I was first elected. So it was the preparation that led me to be able to perform as a member of the state legislature. So I'm very grateful for that foundation. I was born and raised in Watts, and I stand on so many shoulders of so many giants that the expectations is to succeed, but never forget where you came from and make the place that gave you the opportunity to stand on behalf of people, make sure the opportunities are well, not only versed, but also making sure that you succeed in providing for those communities.
We are so fortunate to have someone with your experience, with your lived experience and your experience as a leader, and so grateful for your advocacy. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced around funding, more specifically around education and educational policy?
Well, first of all, just dealing with funding. Funding is always difficult in a very tough environment. While entering into the California legislature, I had to learn the nuances and how to fight for communities and elevate the voices of the people who absolutely need it. I represented, before redistricting, a very poor district. We had double digits unemployment. We had a number of students that weren't achieving and things of that nature. And so it's about working together and collaborating, but also making sure that we had the opportunity to find resources and target those resources for the greatest of needs. And so I went to work, but it was with a challenge. It was with a challenge dealing with the bureaucracy, but also making sure that these resources goes to the people who absolutely need it, and that's our students in our schools. And I'm a strong proponent of public education. I graduated from LA Unified School District, proud to do that, making sure that if it's broken, we're going to fix it. We're not going to throw it away.
And we are so grateful as a county office of education and the largest county office of education for all of your support around better serving our justice-involved youth. As you know, probation department runs the facilities for our incarcerated youth, and we provide the instructional program. And with your tremendous advocacy, we were able to get $80 million in funding for county offices of education to make sure that our students are getting the type of education they deserve. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
One, let me simply say that our students are worth fighting for. They're absolutely worth it, especially makes no difference what kind of lifestyle they've come from, bad or good. They're worth fighting for. And our students, especially those who are foster youth, those who get caught up in the justice system, we owe it to them as adults and leaders to making sure that they can write a new narrative, turn their lives around. There are so many incredible young people that have names have been chronicled on the Hollywood Walk of Fame who dropped out of school, who was a foster child themselves and going from one home to the next. And it is up to us as policymakers, one, to identify them. I hear you, I see you, I support you, and making sure that we put resources to turn their lives around, to give them a fresh start. They're not responsible for, being birthed in a home that had a number of issues, but it's our responsibility to give them every chance to succeed and get them in an area where they can have a piece of the American dream and they can be contributors to our society as well. And so for me, someone who was elected in 2014, I started on this trail after Karen Bass. When Karen Bass was a speaker of the California State Legislature, her portfolio of legislation chronicled a lot of foster youth bills around juveniles who've been in the court system. And so I gladly took that mantle and ran with it and can continue to run with it. Every single year, I build coalitions with foster youth and other youth in the justice system to try to make sure that we provide the kinds of policies that really gives our young people the opportunity to write a new narrative. So I'm extremely excited to talk about my record, but also to making sure that we have real results and our children have the opportunity, because as I said, they're worth fighting for.
Absolutely. And I love your passion and your commitment for serving our most vulnerable youth. And when you talked about dropouts, I was one of those. I dropped out of high school in 9th grade and really helping students to understand it doesn't matter where you are now or where you come from doesn't necessarily define where you can go. So I love your passion and your belief in our kids.
Well, look at that. You are a testament. You just said that you dropped out.
Right.
And now you are superintendent of the County of Los Angeles. What a great testament that some young person can say that I've made mistakes, I've fallen down, I can get back up again, and I can be a superintendent as well. But it's giving those young people the opportunities to see the benefits that's out there, the opportunities that exist, the policies that makes and opens the door for these so that they can become what they always dreamt of coming.
Yeah, and instilling hope. Right, hope.
Along the same lines of opportunities, in 2018, you successfully offered AB 2448, which led to technology and internet and for our justice-involved youth. And, looking back, 2 years later, we had a pandemic. I mean, it was brilliant. Thank goodness that you did that. Can you talk a little bit of what you're seeing of how that law has now impacted education for our students across the state?
Thank you. We can't have two Californians. We can't have two Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. We got to have one. We can't have one where we have some students that have access and other students that don't. Mm-hmm. During the pandemic, opened all of our eyes, and we had learning loss. We had children who may not have been in the justice system, but nonetheless, they didn't have access to the internet. And what they did was they had to go to a Starbucks to get connected, or even I had a student talk about that they tapped into their neighbor's internet and they were studying in the garage. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't have that. We should make sure that we have access. All kids. Makes no difference the zip code you live in. I just said something. Makes no difference the zip code you live in. That we can make sure that access is for all of our children so we can have one California, one County of Los Angeles, providing the same resources and the same opportunities for all of our children.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. Well, I know you've been such an advocate in so many ways. And another thing that you've done that's really supported our youth is AB 1695, which is to help expand and strengthen career tech education. We all know that this is critical, but can you tell us a little bit about why you think this is important?
This is absolutely important because I grew up, I'm going to date myself, at a time where I had opportunities to have career technical education opportunities in school. It started in middle school. I had, they call electives, and I had an opportunity to go to wood shop, metal shop, home ec. We had writing classes, we had typing classes. So I'm really dating myself now.
I was there with you.
But nonetheless, we had that. And when we took it away from our children and took it out of our schools, There's so many studies that have been done that the prison pipeline opened up because we were focusing on the core subjects. We should, but we should not take away other opportunities, because not every child in our school will graduate and go to a 2-year college or a 4-year university of higher learning. Some of those, when I went to school, I had classmates who graduated and they opened up their own mechanic shop.
Mm-hmm. Make a good living.
They made a living. They become plumbers, construction, trades, and they are making and giving opportunities for their families to, one, have a home ownership, to have a new car, to have money in the bank, live the American dream. And it's my goal to making sure that our students now, today, have those opportunities so that they can go into what I call a plumber to my home. A plumber left $1,200. I was $1,200 short.
Absolutely.
Right? And the plumber is driving a BMW. Okay? So you have to wonder, right? In our day and age, was something done that was incorrect years ago that led to our prison pipeline opening up because there was a lack of opportunities. And so we want kids to dream again, to become entrepreneurs. We want kids to have the opportunities to go in the construction trades, to still provide for their families, even though that, community college may not be in their future, or a university, for university may be in someone's future, but they can still make it, because this is the land of opportunities. California, being the 4th or the 5th largest economy in the world, as a state, we should be the home of opportunities for our children, and we need to fight for them.
Absolutely.
Well, another area of opportunity is teacher jobs, right? So
Absolutely.
California, like across the nation, we're facing a huge teacher shortage. And you have introduced a bill, AB 694, which is about a teacher residency program. Can you talk a little bit about that and your hopes?
The hopes for this is, one, is making sure that we re-energize a generation to go into teaching, because our teachers have been burnt out for a number of different reasons. They've got out of the profession, they've retired and went somewhere else. And so we want to make sure that we have a teacher residency program that supports them, that helps elevate them, that wrap around. It's almost like community schools. Community schools wraps around a community, embrace them, but making sure that not only the parents, but the students have everything they need in that community where that school lies. We want to make sure this teacher residency program comes from that same vein, that we're able to, one, recruit and retain, and also help elevate, so that those teachers, those young teachers, can have an opportunity to go into our schools and really spark enthusiasm into learning. Learning doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be a task. It doesn't have to be so burdensome, but it can be fun and it can be innovative. And we want to create a new cadre of a generation of teachers in this teacher residency program that will go through this program and to also benefit and teach the most energetic and brightest that we have to offer our students in our schools.
Wow, so badly needed. Thank you for that. I know you've also done a lot and have really supported climate control and really wanting to better our planet. I know that's something that a lot of our students talk about, our adults, everyone is deeply concerned about where we're going. Can you tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on climate control?
Well, I chair the ports and goods movement in the state and the assembly. We've been having a number of hearings because we have the science is not lying. The science is there. We have to do everything that we can to making sure that we have a clean environment, that we have our cars that are the most newest technology. We have to make sure that, one, that we address the climate issue that not only our state but our country face here and on our planet. And I've put forth some of the big emitters, and those are our trucks. If you're an independent truck driver, right, we want you to have a more cleaner, more technology friendly and environmental friendly kind of truck. Because when you look at the corridor, the Alameda corridor, everything is going in and out of our ports. that it emits so much emissions, and we breathe that in. And so we have to address that. And how do we address that is one of the biggest emitters is our trucks and our bus, making sure that our buses are absolutely clean, making sure that our trucks are modernized for our environment, that is clean, that is friendly to our air, so that our kids don't have to deal with, or adults have to deal with the pollution that exists. So we've been fighting in this area for a long time, and my colleagues in the legislature are really committed to doing everything that we can possibly to, one, meet our emission goals 2035 and beyond. To making sure that our environment is clean, because it's very important to us.
Oh, absolutely. And schools are a large contributor to all of our school buses, and we're trying to do everything possible to make sure we're using cleaner technology to address the situation.
But you have to be able to afford it too.
Right.
You need to. It has to be a partnership with the government. It has to, and bringing in private industries in to try to make sure that we obtain this particular goal, that our buses are clean, right? And making sure that they can still pick up our children every morning and drop them off after the school day ends, but making sure that our environment is clean.
So, we're all a little bit concerned about the projected state deficit and some of the challenges we're finding financially. Can you tell us a little bit, considering all of these challenges, what you see in the near future for education?
Great question. I'm also concerned with the projected $68 billion budget deficit. One, I will fight extremely hard to making sure that our essential services, would that include our education, does not receive any cuts. We have to make sure of that. We've had a pandemic that entered our atmosphere. We still have kids that are trying to catch up. There's no time for us to second guess monies that we've allocated towards education in California. We cannot slip and be the 48th or 49th. We have to make sure that we continue to keep our funding at such a level where it's meaningful and it's focused on the classroom. I'm going to do everything that I can. I'm sure my colleagues are going to be committed. The governor is going to be committed as well. And we're going to do everything that we can possibly to work with stakeholders, to making sure that we hear from them. We're going to have them to come to Sacramento to elevate their voices in the space. But we also, I believe, we're going to look and become very creative to making sure that we have a rainy day fund that is absolutely significant. And I must, because I believe without a vision, the people perish. And Jerry Brown, our previous governor, had a vision to have a savings account, to have a rainy day fund. That's what we name it. And that the state should have, and other states are following what California is doing. So we have this rainy day fund that every budget cycle that we were able to put money away, that the legislature will come together and look at what is feasible for us to draw down, what we can do with our authority and the support of the governor to take some of our savings and place it into helping balance our budget. But also it's a wake-up call for us to making sure that we tighten up our belt, that we do very prudent things that we must do, and that we do this at the same time by maintaining our world footing in terms of being the fourth or the fifth largest economy. We try to do that, making sure our stock market is robust, that it gives the dividends to help add to. We're also making sure that that our state income tax, that everyone pays their state income tax so that we can really see where our budget is at. So I'm looking forward to that conversation, but I'm also looking forward to rolling up my sleeves and fighting for my district and also the children of California.
Well, the children of California are really fortunate to have an advocate and someone who's so committed to public education. So thank you.
I was born and raised, 93rd Street Elementary School, Charles Drew Junior High School, and John C. Fremont High School. Those are the schools that all the Gipsons went and attended, that grew up in the communities in which I grew up in the Watts community. And we're very grateful for that education. And we want to make sure that they continue to, those doors remain open, providing the most excellent education that money can provide for those students in those schools.
Wonderful.
We have so appreciated the work you've done on behalf of education in the past. And so we're looking forward to 2024 and would love to know what you have in store. What are going to be your legislative priorities related to education for the coming year?
We'll continue to fight for our children. So every year I continue to carry education legislation. So I'll do that this year again. Continue to making sure that our career technical education, the bills that are made 2-year bills, that have finished and reached the finish line and gets on the governor's desk for the governor to sign. I'll always make sure that it's part of my legislative agenda and priority. I'll fight for our foster youth and our homeless youth in this state. I will also making sure that we work towards having safer neighborhoods, so making sure that we decrease, and I underscore decrease gun violence in our communities. And so I champion gun legislation, and I do this proudly, without pause and unapologetic, because we need to have safe communities. We can't have children fearing once they leave home that they're being confronted with gun violence. We have to make sure that we decrease the gun violence that's on our campuses all across this country. So public safety continue to be part of not only my narrative, but my agenda. Not only my agenda, but I will force it to make sure that it's part of the legislative agenda for that particular year with my colleagues who believe that our schools should be a safe zone. It should not be a zone for mass shootings or anything like that. Well, I want to go back to earthquake drills instead of
active shooter
drills, right? I remember that. That was never part of my hemisphere when I was growing up. But this is something that our kids are worried for. Making sure that mental health and homelessness continue to be part of our state legislative agenda and priorities. And so those are things that I look forward to working on, continue to work on, because those are important. And, our state is worth fighting for. And I'm going to continue to do that.
Assembly members, several organizations have recognized you for your commitment to education. Most recently, the California School Boards Association recognized you as the Legislator of the Year. Can you share a little bit about that and what that means?
It was a wow moment to have all the superintendents in the state come together and say that Mike Gipson's work mattered, that it made a difference. And we want to recognize that. And I know my parents in heaven are looking down. And when I received the award, they are just thrilled because their work was not in vain. And I stand on their shoulders, and I want to make them proud, even though they're looking down from heaven. But I want to make sure that my living here is not in vain, that it was purposeful and it was meaningful, and that I made a difference, that I didn't just waste time or waste space, that my work here is absolutely significant. And at the end of the day, I want to make sure that people have victory, and victory to say that I graduated and that I've accomplished all my goals and objectives, and that I can go back to the community that gave me the opportunity to exist and to live and thrive and grow and pull someone else up. We are our brothers and sisters keepers.
Beautiful. Awesome. One of the other things that you're really involved in that people may not be as aware of is you serve on a number of select committees.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about those select committees and the work you do in that area?
Sure. Thank you very much. I'm very passionate about these committees, select committees, that the speaker has allowed us to form. So I chair the select committee on ports and goods movement, which means that I oversee all the ports and goods movements in the state of California. We have 12 ports. One of them is in fact a private port, so 11 public and 1 private, to making sure, because California goods movement comes through all of our ports. And if something happens to our ports, stock markets crash. If something happens to our ports, America come to a halt. We are the fastest and largest producing ports in terms of activity than any ports in the United States of America. So we have a vested interest. It has to be a priority. Also, I chair the select committee on police reform. After George Floyd, and I'm a former police officer, and we do this in a very thoughtful way. And we have to make sure that we tweak and reform some of our laws to making sure that law enforcement, one, has a relationship with the community, and the community has a relationship with law enforcement as well. We have to continue to have the rule of law, but we also realize that we have some bad police officers in uniform. I authored a bill, 958, that removes police officer gangs from law enforcement, from our departments. We have to do this because we need to make sure that those who are in uniform serve and protect our community. that's what they were sworn to do. And when we saw the horrific murder that transformed with George Floyd, a number of bills came from that. Chokeholds were banned in the state of California. Positional asphyxia, also cause of death. George Floyd's cause of death was not only due to pressure on the neck, but on the death certificate, it said that he died from excited delirium. Well, excited delirium doesn't exist. It's not supported by our medical community whatsoever. So it's those kinds of reforms that are absolutely needed in the state of California. And what has happened is that those same reforms are now being carried in other legislatures throughout the country. I'm also on the Select Committee of Domestic Violence, the Select Committee on Homelessness. And so these are near and dear to me. And so we want to elevate the situations that exist that I've been accustomed and been made privy to that exist. And we want to correct those kinds of situations with a thoughtful conversation with the committee. And also coming out of that is very strong and important and vital piece of legislation that corrects something that's broken, fix something that needs fixing, shaving off something that needs to be made smooth. And that gives us the opportunity to bring in the community, to hear from them as we craft legislation. So I'm happy to serve on a number of select committees and very grateful for our speaker to allowing me to serve on these committees.
And we're so grateful for you engaging in this important work.
No, thank you very much. This has been great. And thank you very much for the interest in the work that I've done, but I don't do it by myself. I do it with thoughtful practitioners. The work that we do, it calls for collaboration. And if anyone tells you that they've done this work by themselves, they're not telling you the truth. It takes an entire village. If it takes a village to raise a child, what do you think it takes in order to put forth good legislation that is meaningful, purposeful, that is without pause to help our communities as well as our state of California? So it takes a village, and in that village, there are thoughtful individuals who are collaborating with us in order for us to have the product that we can sit back and be proud of, but also changes people's lives for the better.
Well, I love how you're so passionate about the partnerships and the collaboration, but also in community voice and making sure that community, the people that we're serving, has the opportunity to share what it is they need so that we get it right.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
There's so much more we could talk about, but we've come to the end of our program. This show is brought to you by the Los Angeles County Office of Education, a public agency dedicated to serving students, supporting communities, and leading educators. If you'd like to know more about the Los Angeles County Office of Education, you can visit us online at www.lacoe.edu. For questions, comments, or suggestions, you can email us at the address on screen. On behalf of the Los Angeles County Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Deborah Eduardo, and our special guest, California State Assemblymember Mike Gipson, I'm Elizabeth Grasswich, and until our next Schools on Point, thank you for joining us.